Testing. Hello. Dr. Grind, Godfather, HR3, come to the studio, please. It's time to go live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, this is TGD Today. And now please welcome Hero the Third,
HR3,
Al Cloyd,
Dr. Grind,
George Honeycutt,
The Godfather.
All right, welcome everyone to TGD Today. It's Tech Talk with Al Cloyd. Of course, we've got Dr. Grind in the house, and along with us, our resident professional, Mr. Hugh Roy III. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm lovely. Yourself?
Fantastic.
I'm much better than I was this past weekend and Monday. I can promise you that.
What's wrong?
Oh, I just had the flu. It couldn't function.
That's right. That's right.
That's
you skipped out on us, didn't you?
Dude, you didn't want me here.
Tech Talk with Al Cloyd. Dr. Grind, how are you, sir?
Doing great, man. I can't complain. And yourself?
You look chipper today. You
Hey,
just
I tell
look
you.
bright and chipper.
Tried to get plenty of rest, and
Yeah.
caffeine in me before I got here, so
Good deal.
you can't beat it.
Atta boy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, look, I got a question for you. I've had a lot of people come up of late, and really over the last year or so. There's been all this talk about the advancements in graphite shafts and all this, and we've talked about it with drivers and fairway metals. I really want to get into graphite shafts with irons.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's just common knowledge. Steel shafts kind of last forever, but really they don't.
No,
You know, they get
do
rusted,
rust.
pitted,
Yeah, they do
whatever,
rust and pit, yeah.
bent, whatever it may be. Graphites have always been kind of questioned as far as their longevity. Are they as good? Can they perform as well? And I think the graphites of today, you shouldn't have any of those questions in relation to them.
Yeah, the technology is just tremendous.
Yeah.
Absolutely tremendous.
So I thought for Tech Talk today, I was going to ask you the questions, what should we consider when we look at irons, shafts, and should we consider graphites?
No doubt, no doubt. Well, first thing we'll kind of look at what the graphite shafts are actually made of.
Okay.
I think that would kind of
Well, it's
something we
graphite,
talked
isn't
about. Well, to a point, there are other materials.
I mean,
in
that's
there.
pretty simple. I mean, unless you're from Tri-Cities.
Takes a little more.
Why are you shaking your head?
Graphite, I mean,
is a vague
how do you
term.
think they made them
Yeah.
better, George?
Huh? I don't know.
You remember when they first came out?
This is not my show.
You remember back in the 70s and 80s when they came out with graphite and all the torque, and now they don't have torque?
Uh-huh.
Don't you think there's a reason in there why they don't have torque anymore?
Maybe they put a stick in the middle of it. I don't know.
Well, that's
We're going to find out.
Okay.
okay.
Hit it, Dr. Grind.
Yes, sir. Dun-dun-dun-dun. First, we'll start out, gentlemen, with Fujikura. I mean, they were the first company to use premium advanced materials in a golf shaft.
Ooh.
So that was the first.
Premium advanced materials.
Yep. They went above and beyond. They found better fiber. They found better
Okay.
resin.
Okay.
And they made the speeder shaft.
The speeder.
It changed everything.
Yeah,
was,
it did.
It was the first golf shaft.
That 757 was a bomb.
The 757 was
that
the bomb.
was the bomb.
It was wicked.
And I played it in my great big Bertha when I was on tour, George. So you'll be happy with the Callaway reference.
Okay.
There you go. So we gotta
Whatever.
when you're talking about graphite shafts, you got to bring Fujikura into the picture. Right out the gate.
Okay, so they
Just
were kind of
because
like the pioneers, let's say. Is that right?
Of the high end graphite shaft.
Okay, high-end
That's
Better
what they were.
technology.
Okay, all right.
Yep. They started a market that wasn't there.
Okay.
Is what they done.
Okay.
There was not a market out there for premium, high-end, ultra golf shafts.
Yeah. I just remember, Al, back in the 80s and the 90s, ordering shafts and taking steels out of heads, out of iron heads, and putting graphites in, and you go out and you play a summer with them or whatever, maybe 20 rounds, 30 rounds, 40 rounds. All of a sudden you see a peeling or a splintering or whatever, and then all of a sudden you just get a head pop off one day and it go flying farther than the ball does. Now, I know that's normal for me. No need for you to say that.
No, but I mean,
Okay,
the honest thing is, though, think about it. I mean, how much better they've done as far as the compound itself, like you're talking about the glues and the resin, but with the paint, and the coloring, you don't see them marking as bad as they used to.
Oh, yeah.
They're a lot more durable from just your average wear.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of that problem came from.
Yep.
You're relating to here.
Yeah.
It's just bag wear.
Yeah, exactly.
I see
And
that on a
plus
regular
two-
basis,
And
yeah.
plus two, remember when we used to put the graphites in our irons, you had to be careful in how you put them in the trunk, and you didn't just throw your suitcase in the back of the trunk with your gloves because you could snap the graphite. I mean, I've seen that happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of the
Of course,
early
for Hugh, it was the spare tires. He would be throwing the spare tires back there, or putting them in the front seat with him. So
there you go. What
Back
happened?
then, I just afforded somebody to fix it. Now I can't.
ooh, Lonnie died.
What would happen? Why a lot of the early
We're getting
graphite
visuals.
shafts? Yep, I got to explain this.
Hold on.
The tip on the hosel, where the shaft goes in, on most clubs is totally flat, and there's a rough edge right around that. Well, when you install graphites in, you have to take a honing tool and go in and hone that head so that you don't have a sharp area to where it will snap. Now, in the early days, a lot of people weren't aware of this, so they would take a set that
Because every time you struck the ball, that rough edge would
It's like
go
a razor
against.
blade.
It's like a
Yeah,
little-
would
like a
go
razor
ag-
blade.
Yep.
you just chip. So now, when we do a set, I always personally, make sure that they are honed. Even like, like say like old Ping I2s. Okay, everybody knows, the pin that was, but the way that hosel comes up on that thing with no ferrule, it domes. Okay, and on the inside of that hosel, there's a rough edge. And if you was to take the steel shaft out and just put a graphite shaft in there and go hit it, it's not going to last very long. What you have to do is take the honing tool and go in there and hone it out so that rough edge is not there. So a lot of the breakage in the early graphite shafts weren't necessarily that the products were that inferior. Some of it was just knowledge in them not being installed correctly.
How to be built. Yes.
How to be built.
Prevention.
So-
Preventative.
Yeah, I had to
maintenance.
hone the inside of my first wife, but that's another
right.
story. We won't go into that.
You can't beat it. So the one thing that's really interesting that I'd like to bring up is that Fujikura is now offering a steel and graphite composite shaft. So we're going to start seeing on these manufacturers, they basically are using kind of the steel fiber technology, except they're putting their own spin on it into a new shaft, and they're called MCIs, which is a metal composite iron. Okay.
Okay.
So the inner, so they're designed for increased hitting ability, and even weight distribution. Okay. Before they were saying that there's too much weight in the butt end. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So they're moving weight down to the tip end now, so that we can obtain swing weights better.
So should we look at it out as there should be no more concern? I mean, Hugh brought this up, and he touched on it earlier. Torque, flex,
Oh, yeah.
things of that sort.
Oh.
In the old days, I remember you would butt in cut a club to make it a pitch and wet length or whatever, because all the graphite shafts came one length.
That's correct.
And so you had to cut them, you had to weigh them, you had to frequency test them,
Yes.
you had to spine them, all this other stuff.
Lot of work.
For
Yeah.
the irons.
For the irons, that's
Even
correct.
more work than I think for the driver.
Oh yeah.
Do you agree?
Oh yeah, because you're dealing with 7 to 12 pieces, and you're trying to get all them to match up together.
right.
Where with a driver, it's a single oddity.
And they're under much more of a load at impact point. Do you agree? They're maybe not being swung as fast, but with the impact with the ground and
Yep.
all that other stuff, they're probably coming under a more heavier load maybe.
Oh, yeah.
So in the old days, the graphites for irons were, you'd find some that had a great torque to them, but maybe were felt like a board.
That's correct.
And then you had others that had good flex, but they didn't have much torque, so the head would deflect at impact point.
Well, it's like when G. Loomis came out with their shafts.
Oh,
which,
gosh, I remember
I
the
mean, I
Loomis.
played with them
Oh,
in
yeah.
the U.S. Open. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, and you'd look down this shaft, and folks, you know how you'll look at your clubs, and you'll look down the shaft, and it's straight. Well, these G. Loomises, you didn't know which way they were going to go.
Right.
There was no such thing as a straight one. But yet they performed, and they played and felt great.
Right,
But they weren't straight.
right, right.
And everybody used to go, "What?" It's from how they wrapped them and what there was before that this technology
I just
was
think
available.
the technology advancements
Oh,
in
it's
this
incredible.
stuff
Yeah.
to where I guess what we're looking to get to here, Al, is between the advancements made in the graphite shafts, someone walking in to get fitted, to look at clubs, to see something on the rack even, put out the misnomers about graphite.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
I mean, just because right now you look at a set of irons, and if it's got a steel set, it's going to be cheaper than a graphite set.
Oh, no doubt.
Okay, that's really the only given nowadays.
Right.
And the graphite's going to give you a little bit faster swing speed, maybe give you a little bit better launch angle, maybe give you a little bit better ball speed coming off the face.
Absorb shock and jar.
Absorb
easier on your body.
There you go, easier on the joints. So maybe it's worth $200 or $300 more. Who knows? But it's just a matter of now you don't have to worry about it. Oh, well, that's graphite. Is that going to keep up with my load? Is that going to keep up with my swing? I think those things are those days.
Oh
are
yeah,
gone.
I mean, I played the UST for a while, and I've still got them at the house. I mean, I've got the shafts in a box,
in the barrel. Yeah.
They're in a box, put away properly. They're good and they're great shafts, but it's just a matter of what you like, and they've gotten to where they can make them 125 to 128 grams.
That's correct.
Or 110 grams or 100,
Right.
95
grams
or 80 grams.
So
40 grams like
the
we were talking.
versatility
40
of the
grams.
product for the individual is there. It's just a matter of what the individual wants, and did they go to a person that knows what they're doing when they fit them to get them in the right stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise you, if you get a good graphite that fits you, you're going to like the feel of it better than you do steel because it's got more feel in it.
Now, I find that in all of my fittings that I just did one yesterday for a gentleman. He's leaving steel in a particular head, and I introduced him to the Project X. I introduced him to the UST recoil, and I introduced him to the Aerotech. And he thought all three played well. He ended up choosing the recoil. It just seemed to have a little bit better kick for him.
That's what I liked about it.
And so
You feel the head better.
yeah. So, but the point is he had no questions about is this one performing better than the other. He said all of them are basically the same. They just got a little bit different feel to them. And this was a decent player. He's 70 years old. He's a 10 handicap, so a very good player. But he picked up 4 miles per hour in club head speed. He picked up 3 miles per hour in ball speed, and he averaged picking up about 5 yards a club.
And that's got to be torque and kick point.
And there's a couple contributing factors that people need to think about. One is the graphite shafted clubs are a little bit longer than their steel predecessors. So in shaft length, say a 7-iron used to be 36 3/4. Now it went to 37. Now we're looking at 37 and a half, to 37 3/4.
Now, is that across the board with every manufacturer?
That is across the board. Yes.
Okay.
So
A steel shaft in an 8-iron is going to be shorter than a graphite shafted 8-iron.
well, depending off the rack.
Is that what
yes.
you're saying?
Off the rack. Yes.
Off the rack.
Off the rack. Not
Okay.
unless they've been custom altered, but yes.
Okay. All right. And the purpose for that?
Is length and to gain swing weight. Because the shaft is lighter typically than a steel shaft, you have to make that club longer in order to maintain a manageable swing weight.
Okay. And plus, too, the marketing angle is, look how far you hit that club
Yeah,
versus
and
that steel shafted
And
club.
also, for all our
Right.
listeners, every
Right.
club on the market is at least 2 degrees stronger than they were last year. So,
Oh yeah, I mean it's
It's
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
With the way the losses
Yeah.
have gone. But it's like I was telling Al earlier. I think you had stepped out. I've got my clubs that came out of the tour department that are a quarter over, or a quarter of an inch over standard. Well, I pulled out a standard set of clubs, same company, same club, a different shaft, but a stock club. is a quarter of an inch longer or a grip cap longer than mine, and mine's supposed to be a quarter over.
Right.
So what does that tell you?
Well,
They're
they
making standard clubs a half inch longer
Right.
than what they did in the past.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, you assumed you asked for yours quarter over the old number.
Yep.
And
Well,
they're
mine's
coming,
over basic, what a tour standard.
Yeah, right.
Where
right.
now what the average player and the amateur golfer is not understanding is they're making clubs longer so that you hit them further, higher, and you getting more out of it.
And they added more loft. That helps the sell. There's no doubt about it.
With the driver, yes. With the irons, they decreased the loft, but added length, which weakens the shaft, which helps the ball get in the air with less loft.
Yep. And lowered the center of gravity of the iron head.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
And then next, I'll give you guys. So that's pretty much, with Fujikura, what they're using. They use a lightweight composites. So that's the main thing. And their shafts consist of a resin, glass, and also fiber. So that's the main, main
Materials.
ingredients.
Yeah.
But they do have the new shaft that they're doing right now, which is going to incorporate the steel. So I'm going to go ahead and give those guys a call. And get us some of these in so we can test them, because they're going to be this shaft's designed to compete with the steel fiber and with the recoil.
With the recoil.
So that'll
Okay.
be interesting. Next, if we go into the Aerotech, which we've talked about a lot, I'll kind of run through this quick. The Aerotech has a graphite inner core, and then it has a steel fiber surface layer. The core is a high modulus graphite core. There's over 59 miles of steel fiber covering the entire surface of each golf shaft on their iron shafts, actually over 59 miles. So in each steel fiber has the diameter of micron, which is approximately 1/10 the diameter of a human hair. So those fibers are just, the steel that they used to wrap it with is just so it's such a very small
Right.
fiber.
Right.
But that's how they're able to get the 59 miles. So anyway, so that'll give you a idea of what the Aerotech's actually made out of.
Okay.
So they're using the steel fiber, and they're using the graphite composite as a base.
Okay.
And now when we get into the recoil is just a little bit on the different side. From what all the studying I've done is they're trying to use ovaling to their advantage with the recoil shaft. And what ovaling means is when you put a shaft under a load, the shaft actually ovals. And what they're doing is instead of it ovaling against you, they're wanting it ovaling for you and helping you, which is good. So their main thing, basically, they use Kevlar. So that's one product that none of the other companies said they're using. Okay, and then they use what they call a S-glass and an E-glass. Okay, and then they actually use metallic strand ribbons in the recoil shafts. So it actually has metal wrapped in with the windings. Now this was done years ago with some graphite shafts, and we call them boron enforced. So they had little strips of boron. And
I
so
remember
when
that.
you
Yep.
would cut the shaft, you'd actually see sparks fly. So you
Yeah.
knew something that was in there other than a composite, because
Right.
when you cut a composite, there's no sparks.
Right.
So a couple other little things, we were, and as far as the rolling process, they're mandolin wound,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we had talked earlier. It's MANDRELS, mandrels.
Yeah.
So
mandrels.
that's the proper term. One thing that a lot of people don't know about UST, not only do they make golf shafts, but also they make tent poles, they make tubes for bicycles, they make hockey sticks, they make ski poles, they make arrows, and they also so they make a tremendous. They're using this technology outside of the golf world. So these guys right here, what they are, they do what they call carbon fiber tubing. That's their thing.
Right.
And they're the number one at this in the world.
I heard after they go through their process, there's 29 layers inside that one shaft, but it's one piece. So it's just layer built on layer, built on layer, built on layer.
Yep.
So
Yep. So they're designed. It's a carbon fiber iron shaft. It's basically, it's what it is.
Yeah.
And, it has extremely effective energy transfer.
Yeah.
We're saying the energy transfer on this shaft is, the percentage is a lot higher on transfer than traditional steel.
And frankly, I see it on the sim every day.
Okay, well,
I mean,
there you have it.
when you sit there and actually, you can take the same head and put 4 different shafts in it, 4 different graphite shafts in an iron, and you're going to get 4 different swing patterns.
Totally
There's no
different.
doubt about
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So,
So-
that's interesting stuff. Project X just released some new graphite shafts. Do you have any information on that?
didn't really. I've personally just not been, a gigantic fan, of the Project X stuff.
Why is that?
Just through testing this, that, and the other, in their graphites, I just haven't been really happy with them.
Okay.
But it's not anything against the Project X company. I just not
a lot of feel. They're
Yeah.
very, very boardy feeling.
Would you say I almost look at it as, and I wonder if this is where you're basing your opinion on, some of these manufacturers, I mean, Project X is widely known and used in their steel shafts. No doubt about it. I mean, even Rory's got them in his clubs. But in the graphite, it's almost a Me Too product. It's just go somewhere, whoever's producing a graphite shaft, and let's stick our name on it.
Yep.
You kind of got that $8
They
shaft.
shop, yeah. They shop.
You see
and
what I
they
mean?
Bargain, yeah. Kind of like
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
They buy an $8 shaft and then put a price tag of 18 on it and send it out the door.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just don't think that they are, as far as the way they've done it, they're doing it like these other companies are, and the feel of them and the weight of them, they vary all over the place. So it doesn't give you that consistency to where people can, the one, like you said, the guy said, well, they all feel a difference, but this one feels a little this, a little that one.
Right.
Recoil, they've put the research into it.
Big time, yeah.
The recoil seems to be the only shaft that if you got it in a 3-iron and if you got it in a wedge, it seems to be acting the same all the way through.
It does.
It does. That's correct.
That's exactly right.
Okay, all right.
So Jamie told us that the time we had him on here.
Yeah, exactly.
When he was still with UST. So,
Yes.
I just think that, there's just a lot. You just got to look at your different options. A lot of them are changing and they're coming around.
Definitely.
A lot of
Definitely.
technology, a lot of terminology, but again, we go back to the core business. Go get fitted.
That's it.
Use graphite. Let it be of an advantage to you over a steel shaft. You don't have to use a steel shaft, even if you're a great player. We've seen Web.com tour players, LPGA players jump into graphite. Look at Matt Kuchar, Webb Simpson, Zach Johnson.
Well, one of the things that really opened my eyes was in one of our earlier programs. I think it was probably in the first 2 or 3 programs. We were talking, and we were talking about graphite versus steel and this, that, and the other. And I'd made the comment, well, most people are playing steel shafts in their irons because of feel, that they get a better feel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, HR3 told me, he says, no, he says it's not the case. He said that he actually has more feel with his graphite shaft than he did with his steel shaft.
Mm-hmm.
And when he told me that opened my eyes up.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, if he's telling me this, there's something to it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're putting a whole lot more graphite shafts and irons than we did in wedges than I did, previously.
Sure.
When you got somebody,
And that trend's
of
only going to
his-
continue.
somebody of his caliber telling you something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen to your customers the best you can, and you try to do the best job you can constantly. And but for him to say that, that spoke
Yeah.
big for graphite.
Yeah.
So now we're doing a lot of graphite shafted irons, wedges, shall I say, and the people are loving them. So thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
My pleasure. I'm full of crap as a Christmas turkey.
There
you
you
go.
are. It's been Tech Talk with Al Cloyd on TGD today. Al, thanks so much.
Thank you.
For always your insight and your scientific approach to the game. And
I love it.
We love you for it, dude.
Thank you, sir.
HR3, thanks for participating. I'm George Honeycutt. We want to thank you for joining us here on Tech Talk with Al Cloyd. And, of course, TGD Radio and TV are produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting the Golf Director, navigate over to our featured course pages where you'll find up-to-date information about course conditions, specials, and much more. If you need help with your next golf vacation, just give us a call here at the Golf Director at 844-GO-GOLF-1. Ask for Dave when you call 844-464-6531. All of our programming is archived for listening and viewing on demand at a later time. To catch up on any show you may have missed, just click on the radio or TGD TV tabs at the menu screen at thegolfdirector.com. Of course, for all the guys here, Jeff behind the glass, we want to thank you for tuning in. There's more golf news and information coming up next.